Essay, Crisis of Good Governance in Pakistan, Need for Reform and Institution Building. Essay pages 1, 2, 3. 1. Introduction. Pakistan is not a failed state but a badly governed one. Good governance is the inevitable element of a state the absence of which deteriorates the public welfare. With measured reforms and institutionalization, governance can be made better in the country. 2. Attributes of good governance. General public welfare and state's health. Health, education, standard of living. Provision of fundamental rights. Provision of basic necessities. 3. Crisis of good governance in Pakistan. Sectors badly governed in Pakistan. Institutions badly governed in Pakistan. 4. Causes of good governance crisis. Personalization rather than institutionalization. Corruption and nepotism. Ineffective short-term policies. Wrongly set priorities. Weak accountability. Weak state governing institutions. Political instability. 5. Reforms and institution building. Strengthening the state institutions. Making the state institutions independent of undue influence. Effective implementation of laws. Empowering accountability and law enforcing agencies. Ensuring political stability and nurturing the healthy growth of democratic system. 6. Contemporary governance in Pakistan. 7. Conclusion. Pakistan is a state rich in resources and talent but badly governed. A brief history of country since 1947 reveals how different modes of governance have been brought into experiment under various civil and military regimes in Pakistan. Good governance, in general, refers to the measures of a government which bring welfare to the public lives and state as a whole. Contrary to that, crisis of good governance is the continuous failure of a government to govern the state and its subjects effectively. Scales to measure good governance varies just as vary its levels in different government sectors. If Pakistan is considered under the said definition, it gets obvious that the governments of the country failed most of the time in governing it well. The reasons behind this failure are mostly found in the factors of corruption, immoral politics, authoritarianism and dearth of leadership. Crisis of good governance in Pakistan is not a new concept. It has been contested for a long time. Even today, when the neighboring country like China has evolved from its roots into a well-governed state, Pakistan still lags behind in devising a clear mechanism of governance reforms and institution building. Crisis of good governance can be understood only when one gets to know about the attributes and features of good governance. Among these attributes, general public welfare and state's health come the first. Good governance is attributed with the welfare of the masses. If the people of a state are living a good life with all the fundamental rights and the basic necessities secured, it can be said that the state is well governed. Another part of this is health of state. It can be measured in economic, defense and political strength of a country. A state when healthy in its defense and politico-economic outlooks is usually well governed. Further, good governance brings an overall better standard of life. It can be said in a way that the attributes of good governance vary in the eyes of a common man. A ruler in a state is a political entity. Crisis of good governance is the name of a situation when all the attributes mentioned above are missing or replaced by the social and political abnormalities. These abnormalities can be in the form of agents which deteriorates the levels of good governance. Pakistan is in state of governance crisis. Its apparent manifestations can be seen in the declined public health, illiteracy and poverty. Another important way to judge the crisis of governance in Pakistan comes in shape of the weak state institutions and mismanaged state-controlled enterprises. For instance, the decline of Pakistan steel mills and Pakistan International Airlines speak how crisis of good governance swallowed these mighty revenue-producing sectors. Similarly, take example of judiciary as state institution. It has been suppressed by the executive throughout the history of the country. There has always been a rift at some level in civil and military leadership of country. This accounts for a major factor behind the crisis of good governance in Pakistan, which comes in shape of clash between the state institutions, thus adversely affecting their performance. Among the primary causes of the crisis of good governance in Pakistan comes first the personalization of things rather than institutionalization. Institutions are important to every state. When these institutions become hostage to persons, they begin to deviate from the principles of good governance. In Pakistan, during the military rules, the institutions of executive, legislature and even judiciary have brought into personalization of the ruling dictator. This helped in rendering the will of the dictator superior over the law of an institute. Secondly, the factors of corruption and nepotism in a state like Pakistan puts it into governance crisis. These two things annihilate the state's governance structure as merit gets to be replaced by favor. Thirdly, the lack of long-term and well-read state policies becomes another important cause in bringing crisis of good governance. States are governed well through integrated long-term planning and policies which are implemented in several episodes. In Pakistan, governments have plans to govern the country well, but they collapse because of their short-term nature and politically motivated objectives. Fourthly, the priorities of a government also determine the level of state governance. If a state brings the development of infrastructure as a priority over health, education and welfare of the masses when these all are required, then the system collapses. In Pakistan, more is being spent on building infrastructure and little on provision of basic facilities like health, education and employment. Fifthly, lack of accountability further volatiles the crisis of good governance. Even if the state officials are corrupt, the bad governance can be averted by holding them accountable. But when the institutions of accountability become subject to the will of the officials, then the crisis becomes inevitable. In Pakistan, the institution of accountability, i.e., NAB is often subject to political controversies. Even the incumbent Prime Minister of Pakistan has discouraged NAB for its independent investigations. Lastly, political instability in a state puts it into crisis of good governance. When a system of governance is not let to evolve and grow normally and political instability is created in the form of overthrowing a legitimate government, it becomes impossible for a state to ensure good governance. In order to bring Pakistan out of the governance crisis, reforms are essential. Among them comes first the institution building. This refers to depersonalization of state institutions. All the state institutions shall be let to work independently without any undue influence and blackmailing. Bringing judiciary and accountability institutions out of the influence of executive can help the country out of the crisis. Secondly, ensuring the smooth relations between the civil and military leadership can also help, if not in ensuring good governance, then at least in averting many causes of bad governance. The Parliament of Pakistan has enacted laws nearly on all the major issues that a state and its masses may face. The problem lies in implementation of these laws. This is because of the weak law enforcing agencies. Empowering police as primary measure can help in improving the law and order situation of Pakistan, which will ultimately help it in good governance. Lastly, if the reforms and institution building are to be successfully brought in Pakistan, it is essential to ensure political stability and democratic evolution in here. Governance becomes good in democratic system for most of the times. Though it is not a general rule, as many dictators have brought welfare to the people, but that is an exception. In Pakistan, strengthening the democratic system its forefathers chose will help in bringing it out of the crisis. In the contemporary country might be facing the governance crisis, but the evolving custom of political stability is a ray of hope. Unlike in the past, political government is being let to complete its constitutional tenure and then go for elections. That is a healthy development which is bringing Pakistan on the track of good governance. This, along with strengthening the democratic practices, will also help in minimizing the causes of the crisis. In compact, Pakistan has for long been facing the crisis of good governance, but the contemporary political phase can ensure a positive change. Creation of new provinces in Pakistan. Essay, The creation of new provinces in Pakistan, implications for an integrated country. Essay pages 1, 2, 3. 1. Issue. Creation of new provinces in Pakistan is necessity as well as a popular demand. The issue, at the same time, brings political controversies and raises questions about its impacts on the national unity, thus blurring the entire scheme. 2. Voices and movements for the creation of new provinces in Pakistan. Voice for creating Saraiki province in Punjab. Demand of creating Mohajir province in Sindh. Demand for creating Pashtun province in Balochistan. Hazara province demand in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. 3. How creation of new provinces can integrate Pakistan. Smaller provinces, better administration. Better administration, national cohesion. Giving the people the territorial recognition. 4. How creation of new provinces can disintegrate Pakistan. Politicizing the issue for politically motivated objectives. Creating new provinces on the base of ethnicities. Resurgence of provincialism. Divergent provincial priorities. 5. The middle way. Creation of new provinces should be on administrative grounds, not ethnic basis. 7. Conclusion. Creation of new provinces remains an important subject of politics in a developing country which has limited available resources. Pakistan is no exception in this regard. The country has federal structure of government in which there is a central government and several provincial government depending upon the number of provinces. Pakistan is home of 4 major provinces, 1 sub-autonomous state of Azad, Jammu and Kashmir, and an administrative unit of Gilgit-Baltistan, which is not a full province yet. Amid the said scenario, there are demands for the creation of new provinces in Pakistan. These demands are based more of ethnic outlooks rather than political and administrative grounds. The demand of new provinces in Pakistan become apparent in the form of several movements destined to attain provincial autonomy. Creation of new provinces brings several positive as well as negative impacts on the state's health. In Pakistan, the creation is, however, more politicized matter, thus blurring the distinct pros and cons of creating new provinces. This further brings questions over the integration of Pakistan with the creation of new provinces, as the political parties here lack a unanimous verdict. Before knowing about the implications of creating new provinces on Pakistan's integration, it's wise to learn about the major movements demanding new provinces in the country. First comes the demand for creation of a new province in the southern part of the Punjab. This part of the Punjab is dominated by Saraiki-speaking people who recognize themselves as a distinct ethnic group. But the demand of this Saraiki province is not mere on the ethnic grounds. Backwardness and low development levels in the southern Punjab leads to the demand of this province. Further, people of southern Punjab find it difficult to reach the provincial capital city of Lahore for an administrative task. This demand finds its grip strengthened, arguing that most of the budget of the Punjab province is spent on central areas of the province, thus depriving them of the due right. Second important demand comes from the Muhajir community of Karachi. The community asks for the upgradation of Karachi into a separate province. Karachi is the provincial capital of the Sindh province. Making it a new province as demanded would be purely ethnic step. Third is the demand of creating Pashtun province in Balochistan. Being the largest area of Pakistan, Balochistan is the house of Baloch mostly. Some northern part of this province is dominated by the Pashtuns, who want a separate province there. Fourth demand of creating a new province sought a vociferous voice recently after the name of NWFP was changed into KPK province. It is the Hazara community of the KPK province that demands for creation of a new Hazara province in KPK. This demand is also on ethnic basis as the Hazara community distinguishes itself from the Pashtuns of the KPK. Under the light of the said demands, the implications of creating new provinces on Pakistan's integration can be evaluated in shape of pros and cons of taking such a step. Creating new provinces in Pakistan can integrate the country by infusing a sense of confidence in the minds of Saraiki, Pashtun, Muhajir and Hazarans communities of the country. This can prevent them from taking any drastic steps. Secondly, to demand autonomous administrative provinces is not an unconstitutional thing. They can forward their reservations over the unjust distribution of provincial budgets within various areas of a province. Thus giving them the autonomous provinces can bring them into mainstream national politics. Another important implication of creating new provinces on the national integration will come in shape of self-rule. When the people of these areas will be allowed to exercise provincial autonomy, thus ruling themselves, they can better decide their lives keeping in view their resources and needs. This thing will keep them busy in healthy local politics and prevent sedition. Thirdly, creating new provinces can ensure better administration. It is mostly difficult to administer a large province. Thus dividing it into two or more smaller provinces can help in administering it well. This also brings fortune to the people of that area without transmission of resources and revenue to the other autonomous parts of the province. Fourthly, creation of new provinces strengthens national integration by bringing welfare to the state as a whole. When a province of country is welfare, it will surely add to the strength of the state. Contrary to the positive implications of creating new provinces on Pakistan, there are certain abnormalities that are attributed with taking such a step. In general, creation of new provinces is a constitutional step which in no way can disintegrate a country. A nation's integration begins to deteriorate when the issue about the creation of new provinces is politicized. When the political parties begin to measure the creation of new provinces according to their peculiar interests, several controversies emerge. Take example of the behavior of Pakistan's political parties on the issue of new provinces. Pakistan People's Party supports the voice for Saraiki province to curb the influence of Pakistan Muslim League (N) in Punjab. To counter this move, the latter political party supports the Muhajir community in making Karachi a province to contain the influence of Pakistan People's Party in Sindh. Thus, this sort of politics keeps on rendering the issues controversial. Pakistan's integration will be adversely impacted by the creation of new provinces in case the provinces are created on ethnic lines. A new province is meant to be created on administrative basis. It is when done in order to favor an ethnic group, the national integration faces a blow. New provinces, if created in Pakistan, can weaken country's integration if provincialism overwhelms the political scene. If the people of a province pledge to vote only the political party of that province, it will annihilate national cohesion. In the past, the people of Bengal voted for Awami Muslim League and the People's Party won in the West Pakistan. This later proved to be a fatal consequence when the politico-lingual gaps between the two became so wide that the East Pakistan seceded from the West Pakistan. This sort of provincialism has caused considerable damage to the national unity in the past. To cope all such circumstances in Pakistan, a middle way can be adopted. New provinces shall not be created as a first resort, but this is conditioned with the pledge to administer the already existing provinces with just policies for all areas. In case it becomes inevitable to create a new province, it should be in no way on the ethnic lines. This can lead to dire consequences and severe implications on national integration. In compact, creation of new provinces can be fruitful if not based on ethnic lines and not subject to abnormal politicization of the issues. Pakistan integration shall be kept prior before devising any such plan. World a Global Village. Essay, World as Global Village, Learning to Live Together. Essay pages 1, 2, 3. 1. Introduction. Globalization has led to the economic, political and socio-cultural integration making the world a global village. The prospects of learning to live together are, however, still evolving amid the hurdles persisting to check its course. 2. Aspects of global village. Globalization of economy. Global integration of politics. Global village of socio-cultural integration. 3. Contemporary manifestations of learning to live together in global village. Internet and its global use. International political community. Global economic organizations. 4. World learning to live together. The case study of Iran and P5+1 nuclear deal. The melting of ice between Cuba and the US. The traditional rivals of South Asia and the efforts to live together. 5. Hurdles in the learning of global village to live together. Criticism on globalization as a threat to national interests. Gap between the global north and the global south. Economic, literary, cultural and technological backwardness. Clash of interests. Clash of civilizations. Weak international institutions. 6. Ways to learn to live together. Strengthening the global institutions. Minimizing the ideological difference between civilizations. Pursuing mutual interests and fighting common threats. Liberalism of trade. Dialogue to be the first choice of conflict resolution. 7. Conclusion. World is called a global village by the virtue of globalization, which is a multifaceted process. Globalization is integration of everything. It can be integration of political, cultural and technological prospects. The most apparent manifestation of globalization is economic and political integration. Similarly, the globalization which plays major role in making the world a global village comes in shape of technological integration. Global village is attributed with sharing information, products, investments, and profits. In political terms, global village is featured by presence of an evolved international community at the platform of the UN. The growth of an integrated village brings several benefits to the masses as well as states, along with causing trouble for the national interests. Considering the dimensions of global village, the economic integration has brought the world closer and dependable on each other. Multinational companies, global economic forums, and cross-border investments all play a vital role in making the world a global village. Political integration of the world states, which helps to unite global village, becomes obvious at the platform of the United Nations. This institution has 193 member states which discuss and decide upon all the important political events of international prospects. International political security, regional and global alliances against terrorism, international treaties on nuclear non-proliferation, all reveal the political integration of the global village. Another important aspect of global village is socio-cultural integration. It is the mixing of cultural values and customs to evolve the new ones. Apparent manifestation of socio-cultural integration in the global village comes in the shape of fashion, traditions, and practices one adopts after getting inspired by another culture through books and movies most of the times. These all aspects of globalization render the global village to learn to live together. This becomes possible when the world states interact and find mutual interests. Those interests might be political, economic, or social. Multinational organizations and global institutions represent another manifestation of how the world is learning to live together. European Union, for example, represents togetherness of the European nations. Similarly, ASEAN is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations for attaining definite economic goals. In South Asia, SAARC emerges to be an organization for regional cooperation. IMF and the World Bank bring the world closer in monetary aspects. Muslim states of the world form OIC as the distinct body. NATO is a military alliance of European and American nations. Thus, in all ways, world states practice the art of living together for the obvious reasons. Recently, two important developments in the global political context occurred that reflect how the nations are learning to live together. First came the nuclear deal between Iran and P5+1. Iran and the US had been at daggers drawn since the Iranian Revolution of 1979. The country also went to develop nuclear weapons secretly unless came to the knowledge of international community. This led to the beginning of talks between Iran and the permanent 5 members of the UN Security Council along with Germany. The deals bore positive results after years of negotiations. This proves how the global states are learning to live together in the global village. Today, Iran is back in the mainstream international transactions. The danger to the global village has been averted. Second case comes from the continents of America. The United States and the Latin American state of Cuba remained in rift since 1959 when Cuba was revolutionized by the forces of Fidel Castro. The Castro government was unfavorable to the US throughout the years of the Cold War. The US has for long imposed embargo on the island state of Cuba. The ice, however, melted previous year when the Pope visited both the countries, helping them to normalize relations. This visit was followed by initiating diplomatic relations between both the countries after more than 70 years. This case also reveals the willingness and practice of the world to live together in the global village. Third case study can be made on the South Asian states of India and Pakistan. Both the countries have several territorial disputes along with ideological and historical differences. They have fought 2 full-scale wars and a number of other skirmishes. But both find no solution in offensive methods. Comprehensive dialogue between both the states has been revived recently, which reflects that they are learning to live together as peaceful neighbors, though it's tough. Living together in the global village brings fruits of harmony, peace, trade, and unity. But at the same time, smaller states becomes victim of the evils of globalization. For example, World Trade Organization aims at lowering the trade tariffs across the globe. This brings free trade for the global village, but not the fair trade. Developing states find it difficult to lower the tariffs on the limited products they export to earn revenue. Along with this major hurdle, there are several other obstacles in the learning of global village to live together. One major hurdle is clash of interests and priorities. Not all the world states prioritize the same things on their respective national agendas. Sometimes in the wake of global village's mantra, the national interests of the states are at stake. This declines confidence of those states on the virtues of global village. Clash of civilizations is another theory which undermines the art of learning to live together. The theory given by Huntington speaks for the grounds of clash between the world states in the future would be cultural. This puts stones in the way of global integration. Further, the structural flaws in the international institutions which help in strengthening the hegemony of a few powerful states also impede the process of learning to live together. In order to ensure better working of global village, international institutions are to be strengthened, ending all the undue influence upon them. People need to find the common goals and mutual interests in order to learn the art of living together in the global village. States need to collectively fight the common threats at the same time. Preference of liberalism over realism can be more beneficial in achieving this goal. In compact, nations depend on each other. This level of dependence, when reaches its peak, the world begins to become a global village. Hurdles in the way of globalization persists amid the efforts of international community to unite on the points of mutual interests. The deals bore positive results after years of negotiations. This proves how the global states are learning to live together in the global village. Today, Iran is back in the mainstream international transactions. The danger to the global village has been averted. Second case comes from the continents of America. The United States and the Latin American state of Cuba remained in rift since 1959 when Cuba was revolutionized by the forces of Fidel Castro. The Castro government was unfavorable to the U.S. throughout the years of the Cold War. The U.S. has for long imposed embargo on the island state of Cuba. The ice, however, melted previous year when the Pope visited both the countries, helping them to normalize relations. This visit was followed by initiating diplomatic relations between both the countries after more than 70 years. This case also reveals the willingness and practice of the world to live together in the global village. Third case study can be made on the South Asian states of India and Pakistan. Both the countries have several territorial disputes along with ideological and historical differences. They have fought 2 full-scale wars and a number of other skirmishes, but both find no solution in offensive methods. Comprehensive dialogue between both the states has been revived recently, which reflects that they are learning to live together as peaceful neighbors, though it's tough. Living together in the global village brings fruits of harmony, peace, trade, and unity. But at the same time, smaller states becomes victim of the evils of globalization. For example, World Trade Organization aims at lowering the trade tariffs across the globe. This brings free trade for the global village, but not the fair trade. Developing states find it difficult to lower the tariffs on the limited products they export to earn revenue. Along with this major hurdle, there are several other obstacles in the learning of global village to live together. One major hurdle is clash of interests and priorities. Not all the world states prioritize the same things on their respective national agendas. Sometimes in the wake of global villages mantra, the national interests of the states are at stake. This declines confidence of those states on the virtues of global village. Clash of civilizations is another theory which undermines the art of learning to live together. The theory given by Huntington speaks for the grounds of clash between the world states in the future would be cultural. This puts stones in the way of global integration. Further, the structural flaws in the international institutions which help in strengthening the hegemony of a few powerful states also impede the process of learning to live together. In order to ensure better working of global village, international institutions are to be strengthened, ending all the undue influence upon them. People need to find the common goals and mutual interests in order to learn the art of living together in the global village. States need to collectively fight the common threats at the same time. Preference of liberalism over realism can be more beneficial in achieving this goal. In compact, nations depend on each other. This level of dependence, when reaches its peak, the world begins to become a global village. Hurdles in the way of globalization persists amid the efforts of international community to unite on the points of mutual interest.